Okay, I'm coming. Here we go. Okay, yet another fun session. Continuing with the stock market book, looking at hopefully photos from the past that will lead to what would be good to shoot for stock today. Got two more chapters or sections that I'm looking at. One is food and one is architecture. So food had 2 pages, and architecture only had 2 pages. Kind of interesting because that emphasizes how much they thought they might be able to sell from those. And the food one is interesting because I think today it's represents a much larger market than it did at this time. And I think that's an interesting change on it. You had definitely specialty food photographers out there and used to have studios that really specialized in that. We had a mega studio here in Portland that they had like a 10-bay shooting area, their own kitchen, their own couple of home economists on staff for preparing food. And of course, all that's gone now. But I think as a category, it's bigger. It just wasn't represented much in stock, I think, back in this era. And I think that's changed now. But in looking at the food, it was very minimal on it. Especially since, look at food, the idea it sustains us, it enriches our bodies, our souls. Nowadays, it's part of our community. There's so much social that's done around food. Actually, in the past, a lot was done around food too. They captured none of that back in the day. Most of the stuff was raw ingredients, a cork bottle popping, some abstract close-ups that they did. The food that they showed was just kind of average, boiled pasta, a pizza, a hamburger. It was no people in it, no people doing food, no people cooking food. So there is no gourmet food. There's no lattes with little heart thingies on the top at all. They got a cup of coffee and a spoon by it, and the coffee is tilted sideways and some colored lights on it. So it's interesting because the first sections I went through, I felt like I was seeing good opportunities, good ideas that would carry on today, especially the nature part. This is like, yeah, they didn't get it. It just wasn't there. So I've been through the book now, and there's some sections that are good. There's some sections that are just like, okay, times really have moved on. It's very different. So not going to pull a whole lot out of the food, other than looking at it and seeing how much is absent that I know now is being done with stock. Okay, in architecture, kind of ran with some of the same thing on it. With architecture, we live in the surroundings of our making. They actually had no interiors. It's where we live. It's what we like. What went wrong? How do we make it better? What are we doing now? Again, 2 pages. That's all they had on that. They were showing the idealistic home, which was like a split-level ranch. Was ideal. Everybody's working to that with a 2-car garage. So definitely a different time, different expectations then. They had the ideal country cottage. Just a shot of that with a stone wall and gate. It's more like a British country cottage. They were using skyscrapers. kind of as an art form, as those were large geometric shapes that you reflected off of windows or things that way. So very, very minimal on that. It was kind of strange in a lot of ways, the minimalist, that how little was picked up here. No big sweeping skylines. I mean, that's a good general market of any place now, is to have the good sweeping skyline, which I think back then there wasn't as much as that, because I did some of Portland and was surprised at the response that I got from it years ago, especially night scenes with lights on it. And that has totally changed. I think the skyline markets are probably oversaturated now. It's more difficult to do today in the fact that you're going to have property leases that are needed. I think back then buildings weren't copyrighted, and today I think every structure that goes up, the architect's putting a copyright on it. So if you take a picture of it, it represents a derivative work, as with any art piece or anything that's copyrighted, and therefore you have to get a lot more releases to be able to use it for commercial purposes. So it puts you simply in an editorial market unless you can manage to get those releases. So it means the image is going to be far less valuable for anything. So it becomes more of a challenge to get that property release, which is going to be a critical part if you want to have a better economic return on a picture of a building or a piece of property on it. So 2 sections real quick. Maybe teaching us more how things have moved on than looking back and getting marvelous ideas of what continues on. These 2 areas, especially food, has just vastly changed, I think, on what's being done in the stock market. So that's another bit to consider, and I'm considering that myself. So thank you for watching.